There is hype around Chrono Odyssey right now, but there is one big question a lot of people are asking. Will Chrono Odyssey simply be another Korean pay-to-win trash MMO? I think the answer is no, but I completely get why you might be expecting it to be that. Let me try and prove my point. Let's jump in. So let's start with the reasons why you might think that this game is going to be a trash pay-to-win MMO from Korea. The very simple answer to that is a lot of Korean MMOs have been that, or at least for the Westerners, right? In Korea, they possibly don't think that about their games because that tends to be where they're more successful. There's this theory that actually the Koreans want pay to win, but I think even that might be dissipating over time. But a lot of people will have been burnt before in Korean MMOs. I'm thinking Throne of Liberty is obviously pay to win. BDO I think has some pay to win elements, or it was actually worse at one point and then maybe it's got a little bit better. There's probably countless more examples. I've never really played that many Korean MMOs, but even I know that stereotype, right? People just think if it's a Korean MMO, it's going to be probably grindy and then pay to win so that you'll pay to not grind. In the main, I think that's a relatively fair point. And then the second point would be that Kakao Games, specifically and historically, have had pay to win in their games. A lot of people will have been burnt by Arcade when they didn't really have much pay to win, and then when the game came out, they added pay to win, and that tainted Arcade for a lot of people. And I believe when they were publishing BDO, they were saying, you know, we're not going to have any pay to win, and then ultimately they added pay to win. I think Elion was also a pay to win game. A lot of people just think Kakao Games, MMOs, it's going to be pay to win. Again, that is actually sort of fair enough, right? Historically, you can make that case. And really, they're the two basic reasons that people think that Chrono Odyssey might be pay to win. It's a Korean game and it's being published by Kakao Games. Okay, that's the best evidence right now. But I think there's sort of more evidence that things might be changing. Now, I do want to say on the record here, I could very, very easily be wrong. This game could have way more pay to win than I expect. And if it is pay to win, I will definitely let you know. I'm not going to like turn myself inside out to try and say it's not pay to win. If it has pay to win, I promise you I will call it that. But I genuinely think it won't be as bad as you're thinking if you're in the doomer category. My first evidence is possibly going to be one that you think is a little bit weak, but I think is a change in tone. The first evidence is that Kakao Games in the quarterly financials, and the one that I'm actually going to specifically talk about is Q4 2024. If you want to check it, I'll try and put a link in the description. In it, they say Chrono Odyssey is not going to be pay to win. It's going to be a buy to play game, and there's going to be optional DLCs that the players can pick up. I suspect they'll just be like expansions. I don't think they'll be optional in that sense. Now, we've heard time and time before devs say that their game is not going to be pay to win, but I think it's a little bit different when you have your financial statement being made to your financial investors, who are the people who pretty much own the company effectively, or are at least invested in the company. They are being told that this game is not going to be pay to win, and I think that's decent evidence. Yes, devs in the past have said it, but let's compare that to Ion 2 and the recent NCSoft financials, where they said Ion 2 pretty much is going to be pay to win. They're hoping for something a little bit minor than what they've done in the past, maybe something like Throne of Liberty. But I think Throne of Liberty is a very heavily pay-to-win game, but that's just my opinion. So yeah, the financial statements from the corporation of Kakao Games are saying no pay-to-win. I also think the fact that it's a buy-to-play game rather than a free-to-play game does make a difference here. Free-to-play games often need to make up for the fact that there is no buy-in cost, and the way they do that is to make the game a little bit grindy, but then allow you to pay to skip that grind. Being buy-to-play sort of takes away that incentive. I would also argue the fact that this game is quite clearly a global-focused MMO, but I am aware that we've been bitten here before as well. NCSoft said that with Throne of Liberty, and then we had a system where you could literally just buy gear off the auction house with real money. And actually, Throne of Liberty was initially intended to launch simultaneously around the world, but didn't. Chrono Odyssey, I think, will do that. Almost all the footage we've seen so far has been in English. I think they're actually focusing on the global version of the game. That's sort of been confirmed in the financials as well. This is a MMO aimed at the global audience, not necessarily the Korean audience. And let's be honest, the stereotype is that the Koreans like pay to win, but the global audience doesn't. So that, I think, suggests there might not be much pay to win. Now, I'm going to say I actually do think there will be some pay to win. I'm not saying there's going to be no pay to win. I think that would maybe be madness. But what I think it's going to be is more what a lot of people would call pay for convenience. Now, I personally think pay for convenience actually is just straight up pay to win. It's a little bit less direct than actually just buying straight up gear and stuff like that. But for me, it actually is pay to win because it gives you an advantage. If you don't think so, great, whatever, I don't care. That's just my opinion, right? I think it'll be stuff like, you know, I don't know, buying bag space, extra mount speed, or what have you. Ultimately, things that won't necessarily affect your gameplay in a massive way, but will still affect your gameplay. Hell, sometimes I can even be convinced that actually just buying cosmetics is kind of pay to win, because for some people, looking the best and having that social status is the winning. Kind of think we've lost that argument though, so let's not go on about it. Now, the next bit that I'm going to talk about is actually from a Reddit post that has been posted today, but I think it brings up a fair point. If the information is accurate, I've not necessarily fact-checked this, but what this Korean gamer is saying on this Reddit post is that the Korean MMOs that are pay to win, their revenue in Korea is going down. They say that the stock price when Lineage M was super successful for NCSoft was around about $700, where now it's plummeted to $100, and I do believe the revenue might be down. The overall gist of that post is that there's a bit of a trend away from pay to win in Korea, and they expect maybe Kakao to try and move away from the NCSoft model. NCSoft don't have a great reputation in Korea, and it will be very interesting to see how Ion 2 does later this year or mid next year if you're in the global audience. If that one's true, if Korea is really moving away from pay to win games and the share prices and the revenue and stuff like that are declining, maybe they do really want to focus this global audience because we're obviously bigger than just one country. The downside to not having pay to win is the fact that your revenue will be lower from the people that you have playing. The upside is you get more people playing, and if you can get more people buying your box, you can make a lot of money. A lot of people will say that New World failed, for example, but I mean, they sold over 60 million copies of that game and they absolutely raked it in. But yeah, they're the reasons that I think it's not going to be like egregiously pay to win. Yes, it's Korean. Yes, it's published by Kakao. That has all the hallmarks of a pay to win game, and you're not wrong for thinking that, right? It's kind of up to them to prove that wrong, because right now it's pretty much a legitimate position. But I do think that there's a little bit of a tonal shift. We're going buy to play, for example. They're focusing on this global audience. They're telling their financial investors that they're not having pay to win. I really think we're going to end up with a system here where you're not necessarily buying gear, right? I don't think we're going to have that system. And if they do have that system, the game will be effectively almost dead, I believe. But we might have with some pay to win in the form more of convenience. That's my prediction right now. It's worth noting though, if there was going to be some pay to win in this game, we have effectively already seen an enhancement system, which is traditionally where you would expect pay to win. So if you are an eagle-eyed viewer, and I saw Asmongold the other day, he was like, where is the pay to win on this screen? And they couldn't find any in that because obviously they're not going to show it if it is there. But if there is going to be any pay to win, it'll likely be in that enhancement screen. I'm hoping, presuming, expecting no pay to win. I hope I'm right. Surely you all hope I'm right. I could very easily be wrong, but let's hope I'm right. A Korean MMO with a unique style and not much pay to win, I think that could be a big winner. If I'm wrong, you can all laugh at me, and I promise you, if the game is pay to win, I will call out exactly what is pay to win and why it is pay to win. I have a history of doing that, by the way. For New World, I called the Battle Pass pay to win because I stand by the fact that it is pay to win. The key difference, and an untangible that we can't really fully express, is how badly will the pay to win be. New World is pay to win, but it's maybe like a 2 out of 100. The Battle Pass is capped, it's really not that strong. Throne of Liberty is pay to win because you can buy gear. I'd say even maybe like a 70 out of 100 for that one. Don't get too hung up on the numbers, guys. I don't even play Chrono Odyssey. I don't know anything about it. But they're both technically pay to win. It's kind of like crime. I said this on stream the other day. It's kind of like a crime. Murdering 1,000 people is obviously very, very bad. Jaywalking, if you're in America, probably not that bad. Both crimes, perhaps, but nowhere near equal. And it's kind of ludicrous to put them in the same conversation. Nobody treats New World the way that you treat Throne of Liberty for very obvious reasons. That's not twisting myself inside and out to try and placate Chrono Odyssey's pay to win. If it is pay to win, I'll give you my honest thoughts and I'll tell you where I think it fits on that scale. That I can promise you. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.